welcome back to the channel. It is the Wigan Cult Film Club with you once again for the Cult Selector episode. It's me, Tony, and him, Dave. How's it going, mate? We all right?
All right, all the best, not so bad. Oh, Tony, welcome to Thursday.
Welcome to Thursday.
Yeah,
it's a good Thursday because A, I've not been at work all day, and B, it's film club night tonight.
Yes, for fresh. We're watching Grot, and it's going to be ace. And I'm going to drink Vimto and smash some crisps, and it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of these films is what the club's asked for. The other one, they've never asked for it all. We're just showing it to them.
They're getting it anyway.
But they're getting it anyway. It could have been worse. I could have been showing them Troll 2. So, you know what I mean?
Could have been showing them both Trolls.
I mean, I couldn't do that. I couldn't show Troll 2 to anybody. It's that bad. You know what I mean? There's got to be some fun and enjoyment out of what we're doing. That film's neither. So, yeah, but for this episode of Cult Selectaah, we have chosen the theme of future sports films. Now, for fresh. Now, there was a plethora of these damn things in the sort of 80s, early 90s. They had a bit of a stab at it again, didn't they? Sort of like very late 90s, early 2000s, but none of them really took off.
To be honest, it's been around for a while, you know. I mean, like, Logan's Run's got an element of it. There's, 70s stuff like Rollerball and the like.
Rollerball, yeah.
There's absolutely loads of films that feature sports of the future, whether it's the main thing in the film or not, you know. So there's plenty of honourable mentions. There's even like Starship Troopers has got future football in it.
Oh, is it called? It's called Jump. Is it called Jump Ball? And I think it's called Jump Ball in that. Probably, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, Handsome Ball or something. So like there's that, and like Alita Battle Angels got some sports in it. I had a couple others that I haven't chosen today. Escape from LA, someone he's playing future basketball where you stay alive and stuff like that. There's plenty of examples, I think, but I think with your choices, it's a defo of a certain era. As is always the case, you know. But I think mine have like spanned a couple of eras there, but they're all pretty much the same. Let's apply what we know about sports and do something with it in the future.
I mean, the one film that comes off the back of it that couldn't be any more sort of like spoon-fed to you is Future Sport. Do you remember that one with Dean What's-His-Face, who played Superman, and Wesley Snipes? It's appalling.
Hey, Wesley, what's it about, mate? It's about future sports.
It's about sports in the future.
In the future. Well, I don't think it's in your choices there, what you just mentioned before we come on. But you know, one of the big ones there, Robot Jocks,
Robot Jocks,
Robot Jocks. Things are settled in the future by people fighting in massive mechs.
Yeah, so they've abolished world wars, and have now each country has just decided to twat each other in massive mechs to settle differences. You know what I mean? It's great. I should have got it out, to be fair. It's in that Arrow video box set that they put out last year. And it's a great film. You know what I mean? It's really, really good.
It is a precursor to a lot of stuff of now, really. You know, it's Pacific Rim, but in an era when they make Pacific Rim the way they've made it now. But Robot Jocks was definitely one of the sort of like the ones you'd go after in the video store, because it had the poster, and it's like, how are they going to make a film like that and make it look good? Puppets like that, they always do. Get some puppets on the go.
Yeah, typical Charlie Band kind of stuff, typical Full Moon. Followed up by, in the early 90s, was it Crash and Burn? The one they did that was similar.
But
that's a good segue into one of your first ones. We'll start with the one that we mentioned earlier on that sort of leads in from them too.
Yeah, right. So Tony's got his Tony will have his physical media with him. He's a big buyer of it, but I don't know if I mentioned before, but my telly's still like 2,000 years old because when my lad was growing up, he used to draw on it. So until I'm sure that he's not going to do it again, I'm not getting a new telly. Right. Also, I am not exactly that rich, so it's coming. But I know that when it comes, the flood of rebuying everything will happen. But until then, I haven't got the covers with me, so I've drawn them. So I've tried to remember what the covers look like. And first up is Hugh Jackman, a lad, and the girl from Lost in Real Steel. There he is, ready to have a
brilliant.
Fight. So Real Steel is set in, I don't know whether it's like an alternate version of now or whether it's a little bit in the future. I suppose it's a bit in the future because all the trucks.
I think, yeah, it's a bit. It's a few years on from now, and you get elements that it feels like today, but there's a couple of bits in it where it does feel a little bit in the future.
But the basic gist is Hugh Jackman is a fellow he's a gambler. Right, he can't stop gambling, and he's wrecking his life and his relationship with his son and all this kind of stuff because he keeps gambling on robots that fight each other. So basically, people have remote controls and have a massive big robot that gets in a boxing ring and they batter the hell out of each other. And it comes straight out of something like 2000 AD. It's like here comes the next challenger, and it's like a robot mohawk or something like that. With like, and its gloves are painted or something. It's daft as you like, but it's made in an exact mold of something you recognise from every other boxing film you've ever seen. Rocky, the Champ, all this kind of stuff. What was the one you mentioned? Over the Top.
Over the top. The storyline is so close to over the top.
Yeah, it's a remake, but with robot boxers. Honestly, sometimes I think like, who's coming up with ideas that appeal to 10-year-old me, and then thinking that adults are going to go and watch it because they must know something. They're tapped into something. Like these people who go, I've got an idea for a film. What is it? Oh, it's Hugh Jackman, and he controls a robot and does boxing with it. Like a toy, you know what? But against all odds, and as much as I was ready to dismiss this thing, it's ace. It's good fun. It lays on all the emotion overtly, you know, a bit thick with him in the sun, and you know exactly what's going to happen. You know, he's going to go down this bad route, and it all goes wrong, and then something happens. And they find this biz robot that's in this junkyard, and they start doing it up him and his son, and start teaching it all these boxing techniques. By the time you get to the end, it's like Rocky 2. You know, like everyone's stood up in the going, go on, kick his head in, and like doing exactly what you expect from a boxing film. But it's just daft because it's full of robots. But anyway, so that's my first choice, Real Steel. But we could talk about all of these ones that we're going to choose for 5,000 hours. But we'll probably try to keep it as within reason on the way home from work. So I don't want to come in. I'm screaming about robots again.
Yeah, it is a good one though. I know Rick, mate, he's mad on it. He was collecting the action. He was collecting the action figures. He was doing everything for it.
It's just so well made. That's the thing as well. It's like, I was first of all, how did a studio agree to this? Probably because Hugh Jackman's in it. And secondly, the money they must have thrown at it to make it look that good is going to be daft, you know. Or does it sit on, like, you know, there's so much money made from remakes, and there's so much money made from stuff that taps into stuff that already exists, you know, reboots or sequels and stuff like that. This is a film on its own in the middle of like all the Star Warses and Marvel films and everything else that were out at the time. And you think, like, this is like a standalone thing. This is like what you used to get in the 80s. This is like,
massively.
For the 2000s, it doesn't have another film it follows on from or as a sequel to, and probably never will. But it's a cracking little film. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is good fun. Like I said, the first time I watched it, I thought, do you know what, this probably isn't going to be for me. And then it turns out it was. You know what I mean?
You get to that ending, you go, oh no, you pushed all my buttons.
Yeah. And basically, it's like you said, somebody just been spitballing ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Can we make a film like Rock'em Sock'em Robots? Of course we can. Yeah. You know what I mean? Can we build? Can we make it to the script of Over the Top? Yes, of course we can. Yay, we're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is a good one.
My first choice. Yeah, what have you got?
So my first choice is this one's had a remake not that long back, and it was shite. But this one's great, but great in a cheesy way. Death Race 2000. David Carradine, Sylvester Stallone. I know Stallone's not in this for much, really. He's like it's a brief part for him. But the whole, of course, you have to just try and sell it. Yeah. But David Carradine films, you know exactly what you're getting when you get in there with one. But in this, he plays a character called Frankenstein or Frankenstein, however they won't pronounce it here. Sylvester Stallone's character is called Machine Gun Joe, and basically, racing in the future they think has become boring. So racing now is done on the public highways, where for extra points and sporting prowess, if you mow down pedestrians, you're getting extra points. So what they're trying to do is not only get from point A to point B the quickest, but they're looking for the best kill possible as well as why they're doing it, because they get bonus points for extra kills. Yeah, it's bizarre. You know what I mean? Yeah. David Carradine's got a car that looks like a lizard or a dragon or something. Sylvester Stallone's car's got a car that's like, I don't know, a cheese wedge. It's full of machine guns up front of it.
This is Roger Corman, this, isn't it?
It's a Roger Corman film, yeah. So you know what I mean? You know exactly what you're getting with it. I mean, the remake never really hit them out. Was it Stade? I think Jason Stade was the remake, wasn't
it? The remake it feels like a remake. It feels like this story's familiar. You know, I remember this coming out, the original, and my older brother, like coming back from school, saying, while at school said there's a film where you're driving in a race and you get points for it and people in a wheelchair. And like, and I'm like, get lost. And you find it and you're like, oh my God, right. So he was right. So there was something new about it then. And the remake definitely covers ground, not just from this, but from other stuff like Rollerball and whatever else. Speaking of Rollerball, shout out to the remake of Rollerball, which is utter biz, but has the best sound effect in the history of cinema in it. Just have a search on YouTube for best sound effects in cinema history and Rollerball, and you'll get it.
Yeah, Craig, that remake of Rollerball's rough in it. You know what I mean? It's really bad. But no, I mean, as far as these kind of films go, you know what I mean? It's David Carradine. There's David Carradine does loads of shit like this. Roger Corman, again, you can't go wrong with it. So if you like a car film, you know what I mean, set in the future, that's a race, check out Death Race 2000.
Yeah, ones like that as well. That one in particular, and the original Rollerball. They're very good at setting up, like, how would you describe it? It's like they're very good at setting a scenario and a situation that makes you feel weird because it's not reality. It's not post-apocalyptic or anything like that. Dystopian, you know, but it sets up a reality within the film really well that you will forever associate with other films you'll see after it. You know, like a lot of the 70s stuff did that. Like pretty much everything future sport is compared to Rollerball. It did set up that thing of an extremely violent sport. That's just a sport, you know. It's played for sport, but people are getting killed in it. And I know people get killed in sport, but it's not intentional, you know. And it sets up that weird feeling like Death Race does as well, and quite a few others where we're not used to that, and it's
I think the premise behind a lot of them kind of films as well, where people are dying in future sports, it's always like the president has set out a decree that all criminals must die in some kind of sporting activity. You know what I mean? It's like there's always a president going, "Hey, well, we'll just set these games up just to kill prisoners." You know what I mean? It's like, right, fair enough.
Hey, there's a good.
Go on.
I was going to say that's a good lead into my second one. if that's all right.
All right, go on, go for it.
All right, I didn't tell you this, but once again, I've not got the cover, so I've drawn it. I've tried to remember what it looks like, but it's the Running Man.
Yes. Right? Well, that hold on a second. Hold on, as well as
have you got the cover?
That was, that was in the honourable mentions list as well as.
Excellent.
There we go. But your cover's better.
I knew his face was on the cover. I knew I'd be able to guess it right. So they've got Schwarzenegger at the top. I've just said Arnold. I've got Running Man. I'm saying, follow me, light bulb. Hey, Christmas tree. There he is, running off, running. Right. So, Running Man. So keeping it simple, that one. Well, I imagine most people have seen Running Man, but it's I was reading something about it today, about the fact that there's currently an Edgar Wright remake on the go.
I believe so, yeah. I was reading something like that.
Originally a Stephen King short story, I believe.
Yeah.
Whereas the short story is more about like people being hunted across America. Like they choose it. Yeah. The whoever it is, the TV network, choose a crim, set them off, and they've got to hunt them across America, and you've got to get by any way you can. Apparently, this is quite the bastardization of the story, the Arnold version. But despite it being one of the Arnold films at the time that seemed to have like quite a lesser budget, it looked like in comparison to stuff like Predator and everything else he was doing, Terminator. It's just got such a nice, cool idea, and whether it fits into future sports or not, it definitely fits into that death race thing of like, oh, imagine a game show where you've just got to stay alive, you know. I suppose reality TV tapped into all this biz, in a way. So in a way, it's the same as sport. It's a viewer's choice of watching something like this, isn't it? You know, you can turn sport on and off. You can turn off what's it called? Climbing for Dollars, was it? What's that one? But I think this was. I don't know if it was before or after RoboCop. This. It was that era though, wasn't it? I've got a feeling it was after.
Yeah, I think it was after, wasn't it?
Yeah, because this one uses those vox pops that like remind you that you're watching a film about a TV show. And that TV show is about entertainment. Now, in the case of Running Man, it's just running. So as a sport, I don't necessarily think it's a sport, but I'll get away with it because people are just running. They're expected to keep running. So the premise is like Arnold works for somebody or other who flies helicopters, and he's the police, is it, or something, and he's flying around.
Some government agency in it.
And then they do something bad, and he gets framed for it. So he goes on the run, and they catch him, and they stick him in this game show, and it's just an excuse for him to slaughter wrestlers and deliver like brilliant lines after each death. It's a very quotable Arnold film. It's like I say, it's a little bit on the sort of like design wise and stuff. It's not quite as cool as some of the other stuff he was at the time that made him as big as he is. But it's just such a fun premise, you know. Get chased by a guy who uses fire, get chased by a guy who uses ice, and all this kind of thing. Get chased by a fat electric fella. It's just fun because it's made to emulate the crap you're watching on telly anyway. I remember when not long after this came out, we started getting the TV show Gladiators, and there was a thing about like you always see these cultural shifts that you've seen in films before, and at the time you think, oh God, look at that, Gladiators, people just battering each other on TV. How can you get away with that? And they're not. It looks like they are, but that reminded me of this. Just like in Total Recall, where he's having his breakfast and he puts the telly on, and you see people getting mown down on Mars. And when you watch it at the time, you think, this is like unbelievable. How could the world possibly be so violent? Just have a look on the goddamn Daily Mail site, mate. You know, it's exactly the same. Here's a beheading that you shouldn't watch, really. And you think, what? You just put it on like the homepage. And so all of these precursors to society they were already predicting we were going to get madness like Running Man. I wouldn't be surprised if they said, we've got some homeless, let's send them across town, and if you catch one, kill them, and we'll film it. And
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise
we'll,
me,
we'll,
to be honest.
we'll give you points for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But Running Man's great. It's it is a great story. With the remake coming along, I'd be interested in seeing it, how somebody puts a different spin on something like this, because this was very colourful and very sort of TV oriented and stuff like that. And the set photos of the new one don't look that way. It looks kind of interesting. So I'll give that a bash. But that was my second one. This Running Man.
I love it. It's my favourite Schwarzenegger film, and it is cheesy. It's full of one-liners. But it's a little bit long as well compared to some other Schwarzenegger films. The runtime on it is long. You know what I mean? It's
quite.
It doesn't really miss a beat though. You know what I mean? It goes and it goes and it goes and you know what I mean? From the bit where they're all sort of incarcerated. And they've all got the neck things on, you know what I mean? It's like just everything about it. It sets the character up. It sets the characters up. It's really, really good. It is cheesy. It's proper cheese.
Yeah. It's cheesy, but at the same time, it does that great thing again of like setting up. Like, imagine living in a world where they do this. You know, I mean, we do, to be fair, because that's why people make stuff like that to reflect it. But it sets it up. It sets it up in a nice way, and that's very Carpenter-ish. Actually, you think about the soundtrack and stuff, loads of synths and people running away, and like this oppressive feeling of if you don't stop running, you're going to die. It's kind of, there's loads of elements of Escape from New York in there as well. There is like a room you can't get away from, and all these like barbarians with like mad motorbikes shouting at him to get him to the next place so he can have a fight with someone else. It's got loads of that sort of gladiatorial thing about it, which is why I thought it went along with Gladiators off telly as well. But it's a crack of that one. It's probably one of his lesser, with the Russian one where he did with Belushi.
Red Heat.
Red Heat. And what was his first one? The before Terminator or just after it?
Hercules.
No, after that. Oh God! The one he's holding a gun on the cobalt hat.
Oh, Raw Deal.
Raw Deal, yeah. So like Raw Deal and the others we just mentioned then, and this one seem to be the ones that don't go straight to the top of the Schwarzenegger list when people are talking about classics. Of course, Terminator and Predator take him like into the stratosphere and stuff. But this came out after those films, so like. Of course, it's like it should be up there with them. It's spoken about it in the same way. It just has that like really nice low budget feel, I think. And
it does.
And it fit more in the early 80s stuff and maybe even late 70s the way it's filmed. Anyway, Running Man. That's my number 2.
Yeah. So while we're talking unbelievable violence of this kind of stuff, this one proper hits the mark. My number 2 now. Tonight, Man versus Monster. It's Arena.
Yes. I do love that. How much other text they've put on the cover there before you get to the title.
There's shitloads of it. Tonight, championship grudge match, Man versus Monster. For thousands of years, no human has been the champion. He wants to be the first.
Yes.
Well, hold on a minute. There's like, for thousands of years, no human has been a champion. He wants to be the first. Surely he's not the first if it's been thousands of years since there was one. You know what I mean? That's completely wrong.
Well, thousands of years ago there was.
But yeah, Arena. It only can be described as MMA in space. That's it.
Yes.
So
yes, rubber MMA.
Yeah, so there are loads of weird creatures knocking around on some kind of space station for no apparent reason other than gladiatorial MMA matches that are streamed across the universe so people can watch them. And a human turns up on the space station and he's quite a handy chap. He's like a decent boxer and a decent wrestler. But all these guys, all these aliens are like massive in comparison. So he gets a job in a pizza parlor and he just goes about his day-to-day business. And the guy who he's sort of sharing accommodation with always reminded me of the guy. Do you remember the cartoon Galaxy High School?
Yeah.
There's a guy in that who's a pizza guy who's got multiple arms, so he can make multiple pizzas at the same time. Same shit is in this. Like, and I'm wondering, did they look at that cartoon at some point and go, use that character, it's shit hot? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna have a look at him now while you're talking.
Yeah, but what they do in this, so each competitor can actually fight each other. They sort of they bring down your ranking or your strength scale, so you can compete on a level playing field. So his character, he'll get his raised if this character's stronger than him, and he'll get brought down. So they're on a even playing field. And the humanoid is kicking shit out of everybody, and they've not seen the likes of it in thousands of years. And when he comes to fight this guy, he's like a cross between a giant cricket and a praying mantis and some kind of lizard, who's got multiple legs and multiple arms, and is about 9'4". They tamper with the system that allows it to everybody to fight equally, because there's loads of money riding on this guy and they don't want him to get twatted. And even with the tampering system, it still kicks his head in. So,
kicks his insect head in. I feel like some of the creature design in that one, it's like there was a point.
It's brilliant
during creature design times when let's go for elegance. Let's not go for like something that could work in the animal kingdom. Let's give him more arms. Let's give him more arms and some spikes all over the place.
Yeah. But it's a brilliant piece of nonsense. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, I think it's another Charles Band film, and I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's the type of film that it's absolutely was aimed at. We've got to get in the video shop.
Oh God, yeah, it was a video shop staple.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's like whether there's a similarity between film pitches that get you in the cinema and film pitches that work better in the video store, because you'd often find like the video store, it's not about going and picking one film a lot of the time. I don't know about you, but when we used to go, we might get 2 or 3.
100%,
yeah. So you'd get like a mix. You'd get like, let's get some at horror, let's get some at science fiction, and something else, and you'd just go straight for like a type, as opposed to like, well, this one big film's got in a release and we're going to go and see it at the cinema. So if you're going down the sci-fi aisle in the video shop, you need a quick premise. You need a quick sort of like, what's this? Oh, it's wrestling in space. I'm having that, you know.
It's I think at the time there was a lot of martial arts films out at the time of this. So but like low end martial arts films, so films like Best of the Best and stuff like that. It has got that feel about it. It's got that little bit of a Rocky feel about it as well. It's like he's the underdog and no one knows him, and they just sort of like mashed all that together and went, oh, it sort of works, but can we make it better? Make it in fucking space.
Exactly.
And they did.
You're hitting loads of different crossover elements in a video shop, and that might cover 2 of the films that you wanted to rent for that week. The sport film and a bit of horror sci-fi as well.
Yeah, but like I say, if people haven't seen Arena, it is up on YouTube, so you can get it on YouTube if you've not seen it. And it's definitely worth a watch. You know what I mean? It's just loads of fun. It's stupid fun, but it's fun.
Exactly. Get some beers in, a big finger, and some
or
a hot dog or something. Watch that.
Yeah.
Right, so my last one. I've got all these films like digitally, by the way, that I'm choosing, but I just haven't got around to replacing my DVD. I got rid of them all a while back to make some room for Lego. Now the whole house is Lego. So not mine, by the way. Full of bite marks. Right. So my last one on the future sport thing is Tron Legacy.
Yay!
Look out, Tron. Don't know if that was on the cover. It probably was. There's Tron there. Give it flicking the V's to the fella. Right. Tron Legacy. Right. So future sports. I don't know if it technically would be future sports, but going back to the original Tron and the hype of that coming out at the age that I was when it came out. Tron was on. Tron himself was on Blue Peter. He walks on in a white suit, and he says, "All right, I'm Tron." There, and all this, and his mate goes, "All right, I'm his enemy. I'm Stark or something." And I can't remember whether it was the actual actors or whether it was someone else. But somebody came on Blue Peter dressed as Tron, right? And it was like somebody swept my legs away because Tron was supposed to look neon, right? And of course, you can't do that in the real world, but they were kind of showing off what the costumes looked like when they filmed it, and then they added all the stuff later on. But Tron, probably more than any film in the 80s, was the film that you would refer to if you saw something neon like it. You say, "Oh, you look like Tron." Anything with somebody wears something that's glowing. So Tron's out tonight. Look at this. And the original was so good at that it sort of like it lasted in the memory for as long as it took to bring a sequel out for it. However many years, 30 years later, something 20 or 30.
But it must have been. It must be 30 years till a sequel came out.
And I can't actually think of like there's dodgy elements in Tron Legacy. Don't get me wrong, but it's absolutely beautiful when you're in the game world. And
it looks great.
The original one. I mean, the story is like in the original. This fellow who's a games developer gets like screwed over by the people he works for, and something goes wrong, and he gets zapped, and he goes into the games that he's created. And so these are very much games of the era. Like they're all sort of pixelated, all classic sort of gaming arcade stuff. You've got light cycles, which is like you just like trying to stay out of the way of the trailing light coming off another bike. If you cross it, you crash. You've got the frisbee game, whatever it's called, the discs and stuff, where you throw discs at each other, trying to knock each other off. Something. And all these games are featured in this first film, but he actually goes in and he plays these games. Now, it's always been, it was seen as a massive leap for Disney at the time because it was a Disney film, wasn't it? And the effects wise, it was seen as like quite a leap because we were getting all these like mad CG, very, very early computer effects, but the story was basically explaining why they look so like dated now because it was computer games at the time. So to be honest, all they needed to be was a realistic square, and you'd be happy with it. So in the context of the film at the time, it felt like a technological leap. And to be honest, I've always had it back in my mind, what it would be like if you did Tron again. And so they did a follow-up, Tron Legacy. And it didn't land well with a lot of people, but it's my go-to to try out a new device if I'm watching something, because the scenes in the games, in the grid, where people are shot, like people taken into the grid. The game scenes, again, future sports. You've got the light cycles, you've got the disc game, you've got a few others. They're just stunning, absolutely stunning. And
they look amazing.
The second one fulfills what the first one was doing at the time, which was making things look like gaming was at the time. This one probably makes the gaming look better than it does now, but it's close. You know, the graphics these days are going to get stuff looking like this film does. But it also does that excellent thing of like it achieves a brilliant mood. It goes back to like the soundtrack basics of like the original, and it improves on them. I think the Punk soundtrack's one of my favorite of all time. If I've got work to do,
it's good.
Put that on, and the garden's getting cleared. Wow, like that. Like this. It's an absolutely brilliant soundtrack. It's really good. And there was a series that came out on something or other. I think it's probably on Disney Plus. It's not Tron Legacy. It's Tron Rising or something like that. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Did you watch that?
No, I know of it. I've not seen it.
It's brilliant. It's really, really good. It's based on the designs of this guy who does these really stylized versions of people, like dead long legs and really wide shoulders and stuff. And some of his stuff has been out in the world doing other things. He did some Wonder Woman animations that looked fantastic, and he did one for Love, Death and Robots, I think. One about the artist. called, is it Zuma Blue or something like that? It's really stylized stuff, but it looks cool as anything. And the Tron series is really, really good. It's about like what happens after Legacy. I think it's about what happens after Legacy. Whatever. But it's all set on the grid. There's no human stuff. It's all set on the grid, but it's really, really good. And when they do the action, once again, it fulfills what you wanted to see from those original films. So the future sports in it, the light cycles, the disc throwing, are just ace. They're just like a dead good game idea.
Yeah.
Light cycles in particular always look cool. But
yeah, look great.
In the second, they just look fantastic. Looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, really. The first film never really took off. It was a bit of a disaster, really, for Disney when it came out. People just didn't know how to take it, and it didn't do well at all. I think it picked up and started a role when it came to like home media, when it came to out onto video rental. I think it picked up some momentum then, but as a cinema release, it absolutely tanked.
But that always blows my mind, that, because at the time, if a film was on Blue Peak, it was a big film. You know, they had the Black Hole came and stuff like that, and they had people on from the Black Hole, and they had people on from Biggles. But
don't diss the Biggles.
I know, yeah. But the amount of advertising at the time, I know when I was at school, everyone was talking about going seeing Tron, and it definitely had a cultural impact, because people went to see a sequel to it 20 years, 30 years later, and it definitely had a cultural, because every so often people will reference Tron in the same way like a comedy sketch might use The Matrix in the same way, and it's probably a precursor to that, going into a digital world. It felt big at the time, and I know it probably didn't make as much money because it was a bit of a leap. It was like CG stuff and people glowing and all that. So whether people got their heads around it at the time, I don't know. But it's got David Warner in it. You can't really go wrong. And a bit of Jeff Bridges. Yeah,
that's it, isn't it? It was a decent cast. You know what I mean? It looks brilliant, and you sort of look back at it now, and it's hard to sort of get your head around why it didn't do well. You know what I mean? Because it's everything that would have sort of ticked the boxes for you. It's everything that would have ticked the boxes for me. There must have been millions of other people out there with the same sort of like basic idea about it, but for some reason it just didn't do well. It's bizarre, really.
I wonder if it was up against something in the box office, that
possibly.
A bit,
or whether it was one of those kids films that was put out, unlike loads of Disney's kids films at that particular time, where your mum or your dad might have taken you to go and watch it, and they could have sit there and tolerate it. You know what I mean? My dad dragging me along to that would have gone, I'm not going watching that. You know what I mean? So hence why probably no kids got took to it, because the parents didn't like the looks of it.
Yeah, it's going to hurt their eyes. They're going to see it and go, computer games. Not watching that. Right, so that's choice number 3, bit of Tron Legacy.
That's a top pick. So choice number 3 for me, and I got really excited this week when I realised that Umbrella Entertainment from Australia are releasing a fucking 4K of this film. Just let that sink in, a 4K of this, right? We've never even had a Blu-ray of it, so it's coming to 4K. And that film is, and I nearly jizzed myself, Salute of the Jugger.
Yes.
Salute of the Jugger, also known as Blood for Heroes in America.
Salute.
Yeah.
Go on.
It's an absolutely brilliant film. It ties everything up in a post-apocalyptic world. There's been a nuclear sort of war at some point in time. The Earth's been left devastated. Mankind's just in like sort of small tribes dotted around everywhere. Well, there's like one mega city that's set up out of it all and around the surrounding wastelands. Sort of troop around these juggers, which are professional sportsmen that are playing from village to village or town to town where they go, for the rights to be the best jugger team on the wasteland, and B, to get a shot in the National League that there is in this big mega city. And all the Jugger players want is to win and move on to the next game. It's bizarre because the only way I can describe it, it's a bit like American football, I would suppose. And it's but played with weapons. So there's actually proper positions of team players. They've all got like blockers or tacklers or offensive or defensive players. But when you look at each team's costume or uniform or whatever you want to call them, these is like made out of scrap. So like what one team's that they come up against, all the gear's made out of bamboo, and it's like they look like more like baseball players in this like bamboo get up. But this troop of Juggers with Rutger Hauer as the leader, all their shit's made up of like tires and like welded on iron bars and all kinds of weird shit. And like the weapons just made out of the weapons are made out of like chains and all kinds of shit. But it was from the writers of Blade Runner and The Unforgiven and 12 Monkeys. So it must have been some early stuff that he wrote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like films where, like, in something like Terminator, everyone on Earth is dealing with the one problem you know about. You're like, it's post-apocalyptic and whatever else, but you're all dealing with this one problem. I get that; it suits that story. But in something like this, it doesn't forget that humanity's still around. You know, I mean, humanity's barely surviving or whatever, but it doesn't forget that they like sports.
Yeah,
you know,
they love it.
You might need entertaining as well. You know, I like it when somebody's like does do the Star Trek thing and like everybody on one planet all dressed the same and they're all bothered about one thing. The world's like infinitely different and everyone's got interests. So even if in apocalyptic times you need something to be watching, don't you?
It's quite clever in the fact that it realizes that there wouldn't be anything sort of left in humanity that anyone would really give a shit about. So they haven't got, like you said, the cobbling their uniforms together out of anything they can find that sort of protects them while they're playing the game. Because it is barbaric. I mean, they're clubbing each other, they're whipping each other with chains, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And obviously, it's a sport like American football or rugby, where both of those sports will be played with a ball. But in this future, they haven't got any balls. They've got nothing like that. So they play it with dog skulls. So they get three dog skulls, and they have to put the dog skull on a spike at the other end of the pitch where they're playing. Which is genius, really, because if you think about it, there's probably fucking dog skulls everywhere around here. You know what I mean? It's like, but Rutger Hauer in this, his character is a disgraced jugger out of the national leagues, and he gets kicked out of the mega city, and he ends up in the wasteland, and he puts this team together, and he's putting this team together to try and get himself back in the national league. And eventually, when they get noticed, they're allowed to enter a competition, but you know it's set up and you know it's rigged and you know they're all going to get battered or killed or whatever. And Rutger Hauer's got to the point where he just doesn't care anymore. You know what I mean? He's just out for revenge. He wants to get it in on these guys that run this national league. He wants to fucking sort of like turn them a new arsehole. And he sort of does, but then it ends up more relying on this character here. She joins the team a bit later on because they get one of the players killed. But it's really, really good. And when they were saying they were bringing this out in 4K, I was like, no way. Who the hell thought bringing Salute to Joy? But it's brilliant. It's a brilliant film.
Saw a few that like posts about that. I'm like, there's a friend of mine who was interested in. He's always interested in trying to find a really nice print of the Michael Mann's The Keep.
All right, yeah.
He's a big fan of that, and there's never been like a really decent version of it released apparently. And he's been watching like people who are connected with this, you know, the film in some way, and there's been like a discovery recently of someone who's found reels, and I think they're going to go through them and see if there's something from it. But it does make you think, like, the end of the day, when that film was made, those original prints, they have to be maintained to be able to do something like that, and
yeah,
they've got to be stored somewhere. And something like this being announced makes you think, I wonder if someone's found it in a room somewhere, and
possibly,
they might not even have seen it. They're just like, oh, found this, but it's of a quality that we'll be able to put out something of a very good quality. So the announcement of it is probably a way of gauging whether it'd be popular or not.
Umbrella are pretty good at what they do restoration wise. I mean, normally they're in small numbers as well, Umbrella. So now the only thing from that is if Umbrella released that in Australia, the chances are 88 Films will probably pick it up over here because they tend to work close together. So the chances are we may get it over here. But it's always baffled me why there's never been a Blu-ray of it. But like I say, unless they've only just come across elements of it, I don't know what the story is behind that particular film. Because that's who released it on DVD. Optimum Home Entertainment released it on DVD. So you know what I mean, whether that was a VHS rip at the time, because the film's in 4:3 on that, so. It could have been just a VHS. It looks better than the VHS. It doesn't look brilliant, but it looks better than the VHS. But I don't know with that one.
I'd be interested in watching that for 4K.
Yeah, because it's like I say, it's a great little film.
I watched it some time ago. Probably got mixed up with Prayer of the Roller Boys and something else in my head.
Those are the film.
The other one's Future Sport.
Future Sports.
Yeah. But yeah, I quite fancy watching that one again, actually.
So that was cool that got announced. And like I say, it's been one of my favourites right back from the video shop days. You know what I mean? It was one that I always went back to.
It was.
So that was. It's great.
There were some films, no matter what the quality were, they got a good coverage when it came to like posters being in video shops and that. Because you get E.T. in there and you might get a poster for E.T., but the poster for Eliminators stayed in the window for pigging years. For whatever reason, I don't know. There were just some that just used to linger in the store, and you don't know whether that could have been because of like word of mouth. Somebody's seen it and said, "Oh, you should get this one out," and so they've kept the posters, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, one sec, wife's just come in. Hello, are you okay? I've just stopped chatting with Tony. Won't be a sec. Won't be a minute. Right. So, so that's our picks. We did some. We decided to look at the sports of the future, of which all of them are definitely going to come and become reality. Yes.
100%.
Yeah, we could have gone down the Hunger Games routes and stuff, but the Hunger
They're
Games feels a bit like. We've seen it, I mean, it's got elements of Running Man, it's got elements of
it's elements. Yeah, it's elements of everything. And end of the day, it's just not fun. It's played being serious, and these kind of films shouldn't be serious. You know what I mean? We have got some honourable mentions. We'll throw it quick. Now I know Frank mentioned this one over at the Slaughtered Lamb podcast the other day, and he absolutely hated the film. But I love the film. Now in America, it's known as Solar Babies. Over here, it's known as Solar Warriors. Rollerblading kids in the future play some kind of weird hockey game and find an alien orb. You can't really go wrong with that one. And another one, Fred Williamson film. It's a Lucio Fulci film. Warriors of the year 2072.
Not far off.
Yeah, but fighting gladiators on motorcycles in arenas set in Italy. What more do you need?
We saw that big poster for at the horror convention.
Rats, Night of Terror.
Rats, that was it. Yeah. That was
The next one, we've already talked about David Carradine, but he did more of these films than you care to mention. Death Sport. In the year 3000, Death Sport. David Carradine wanders the wilderness for no apparent reason other than to kill people on motorcycle with jets.
Vehicular slaughter. Future vehicular slaughter. We've even got
that's brilliant.
Even got a year on the cover, just sort of reminds you of Death Race 2000.
Yeah. And one we've already mentioned, but it's probably the daddy of them all, really, and that's Rollerball. Brilliant film, great premise, great story. Luke's brilliant, barbaric as fuck. It's full on.
It's kind of one of them ones that were. It was, you know what? It was. Everyone was talking about it at my primary school, but the main story is not the sport. Sport's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like in stuff like Arena, that the sport is the thing you're watching it for. In the case of Rollerball, like your adults are going to be watching it, thinking like this is a good story about this guy fighting the system or whatever. But like kids at my school were bringing ball bearings in and rolling them at each other dead hard across the playground. One lad got a massive big dent in his shin because like someone went boom with this massive big. What was it? What were they called? They had like marbles were like more marble size. Then you have were they called doubles, where it was like
yeah.
Someone came in with a ball bearing that big, and we said, "Let's go in and play rollerball." I said, "How'd you play that?" I said, "Well, somebody chucks this dead hard, and everyone gets out of the way." So we played it for weeks until the teacher said, sure. I don't think you should be playing that."
Played it for weeks until someone come in with a set of French boules in a bag, smashing boules at each other.
A cannon. Someone rode a motorbike in with spikes on the wheels.
Sniff this.
Yeah. So I think I did a few honourable mentions at the beginning there. I was going to mention Akira as well for the bikes and like around, but I won't class it as a sport really. But any excuse to talk about Akira, I'll do that at some point else when we have another subject matter to fiddle with.
Yeah, but no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. There's something we've missed out on, but if we have missed out on it, let us know what it is down there in the comments.
Yeah, if there is, we'll act like people who know what they're doing on YouTube and say, write it in the comments and we'll give it a read and we'll reply. Which we will, you know.
Which we will, yes.
Yeah, so I'll do that. All right, mate. I'm going to go and start getting ready because we're going to watch some delicious films later on.
Yes, we are film clubbing it. So for this episode, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And just remember, keep it cult.